Welcome students and welcome to the course of machine design. Today we are going to see a very interesting topic, that is stress strain curve for ductile material. You may see this topic in your mechanics subject, in your material science subject, in your strength of material subject, but I want to discuss this in machine design subject also, because it has some relation in designing, means its application in designing. So I want to discuss it. I will discuss stress strain curve for brittle material also, and at the end of the lecture you will able to understand why you are going to study in machine design. You may only discuss this in material science, but you may not see any uh, practical application. You may study in mechanics subject also, but you may not see practical application in this particular subject. I am not telling that there is no practical application, but in this specific subject you had only discussed topic for the knowledge point of view. Okay, now as we all know, the stress strain curve for the ductile metal is like this, that you are seeing in the diagram on the right hand side. You may see, and this curve is for mild steel. In the last video we had seen the constant of carbon in the mild steel, that is approx 0.4 to 0.8% of carbon. Okay, you already know what is the different point of stress strain curve. That is stress strain curve starting from point O and point O, from point O to A, then A to B, then B to C, and C to D, D to E, E to F, and E to G also. Okay, so I am going to tell you one by one each and every point. So starting from proportional limit, that is 0 to O to A. You may see in the diagram that from point O to A is a straight line. Okay, you will see by your eye it is a straight line. Maybe on some angle, but line is straight. This represent the stress is proportional to strain. Here stress is proportional to strain up to O to A. Beyond point A, the curve slightly deviate from straight line. You may see with your eye that A to B means after the proportional limit the curve start deviating. It is obvious that Hooke's law hold good up to point A, and this is known as proportional limit, means stress is proportional to strain. That's why this name comes out. This name comes out due to proportionality of stress to the strain. And up to point A, it follows the Hooke's law, and Hooke state that the stress will be proportional to strain, and if you are going to remove the proportional limit, you may get the Young's modulus. We will discuss later, not yet. So it is defined as the stress at which stress strain curve begin to deviate from the straight line. Now second is elastic limit, that is point A to B. Point A to B is the elastic limit. Means if you are going to increase the load beyond A but up to B, beyond A but up to B, the material will regain its shape and size when the load is removed. You may use rubber, that is hair band type rubber, not the video anta rubber, and you may stretch it. If you stretch and release the load, the rubber regain its shape. Means after removing load, if the material remove the if material regain its shape, it is called as elastic limit. Means it follow the elastic limit. This means that the material has elastic property up to point B. And the material, whatever material you are going to use, have elastic property. Since it is a ductile metal, it has elastic property. If it is brittle, so as you are aware that there is no elastic properties in it. So further, elastic limit is defined as the stress developed in the material without any permanent set. So, but if you see that A and B point is very close in the curve, so for practical purpose these 2 points can be taken as one or taken to be equal, that is point A is equal to point B, but actually both are different. You may take A is equal to B for your uh, practical application or for calculation purpose. Okay, now from B to C it is yield point. Means yield points means a set of plastic or the range of plastic deformation increases, means comes in the picture. Up to point B you may encounter elastic deformation, but from B to C and C to D the material will encounter, the material will uh, behave like a plastic. Means after applying a small stress, strain is going to increase. You may uh, see the practical application. If you have polythene bag in your home and you are going to apply load from the both side, the tensile load, so you may encounter that you are going to use a small stress and the plastic get deform more, that is strain value is high. So on the name of this behavior here, the point B to C and C to D is known as plastic stage or plastic deformation. I am reading the uh, yield point content as it is. If the material is stressed beyond point B means elastic limit, the plastic stage will reach, that is on the removal of load the material will not be able to recover its original size and shape. A little consideration will show that beyond point B the strain increases at a faster rate with any increase in stress until the point C is reached. Means after applying or on applying a smaller stress value you may get the higher strain value. Okay, at this point the material yield before the load, and there is an appreciable strain without any increase in stress. Okay, means you may get plastic deformation without uh, what you say, without increasing or without applying stress. In case of mild steel, it will be seen that a small load drop to the immediately after yield commences. Okay, means when you get yield point, this load drop. In the case of mild steel, there is some load drop. Hence, there are two yield points C and D. There's two yield points C and D. The point C is called upper yield point, and point D is called lower yield point, respectively. And the stress value or stress corresponding to yield point is known as yield point stress, and this is very important. This C and D is very important. I will discuss later on at the end of this video why this C and D line, upper and lower yield point, is important for your design point of view. Now, that is point E. Point E is ultimate point, means the during stress strain curve, this point is maximum, means this material offer the maximum stress at point E. As yield point, as lower yield point is over, the material get strain, but stress values also increases corresponding to strain value. At point D, the specimen regains some strength, means as the point D is reached, the specimen have some strength, and this required higher stress corresponding to higher strain value, or vice versa also. Higher strain was corresponding to higher stress value. Then those between A and D, the stress goes on increasing till the point E is reached. Means the material have some sufficient strength, and the stress value is goes on increasing till the material comes to the point E, that is ultimate stress value. The gradual increase in the strain of the specimen is followed with the uniform reduction of its cross section area. You may see on the lower of the stress strain curve, That is a dog bone type specimen. You may see dog bone, the bone that is licked by the dog, generally in the movie, generally in the cartoons. If you are not seeing, you may search the dog bone, the quill, and this structure is like a dog bone. In the middle there is neck, and the two side is wider, and the area of concentration is the middle of the neck, that is the line exact in the between of, or exact at the mid. Okay, the work done during stretching the specimen is transformed largely into heat, and the specimen become hot. That is, if you are applying a load, and due to load, uh, work done increase it, and due to work done, the heat is going to increase, or your specimen become hot. At point A, the stress which attain its maximum value is known as ultimate stress. That is, at point A, your specimen is achieving a maximum value, and after this point, your specimen that attain maximum value may uh, the stress value goes on decreasing corresponding to strain value. It is defined as the largest stress obtained by dividing the largest value of the load reaches in the test to original cross section area of test specimen. Okay. Now fifth, that is point F. Point F is the breaking point. You may see a point G also. We will discuss in between the breaking point, that is some special case of A and G, but actually if someone asks the only the stress curve, you are going to draw a curve like A, B, C, D, E and F. But if someone asks about the true stress strain value, you have to draw A, B, C, D, E, then G, not F. Okay. Now breaking stress. As you see the point F, the material get break away. As you are going to increase the load beyond F, the necking of a specimen and the specimen cross section area get on narrowing, narrow and narrow and narrow, then break. Okay, so I am reading the portion of breaking stress as it is. After the specimen has reached the ultimate stress, means point E, a neck is formed. Neck is formed where? In the dog bone structure. Which decrease the cross section area of the specimen, that is 4.12. Figure number, you may see the dog bone structure. A little consideration will show that the stress necessary to break away the specimen is less than the maximum stress. The stress is therefore reduced until the specimen breaks away at point F. The corresponding stress to point F is known as breaking stress. This ultimate stress value is very important for design project. Means you are getting two stress value. First yield stress value and second the ultimate stress value. For design consideration we will discuss later how it is going to useful for design concern. I wish to discuss about the point G. You may see in the stress strain curve that point G, that is true stress strain value. The breaking stress appear to be somewhat misleading, that is point E to F, as the formation of neck takes place at E, which reduces the cross section area. It causes the specimen suddenly to fail at F. Okay. If for each value of strain between E and F, the tensile load is divided by the reduced cross-section area at the narrowest part of the neck. Means actually you are going to divide the stress value, load to the stress, uh, load to area, to the actual area in the beginning of the specimen. But as the necking is formation, the cross section area is reduced one, no? So you have to decide with the divide with the reduced cross section area, but you are not going to do this. You are dividing it with original, that is at initially uh, the value of A, that is cross section area. That's why you are getting point F value. But if we are dividing it with dividing it with the necked area, that is a narrow area, you will get point G, that is the actually the tensile load is divided by the reduced cross section area at the narrowest part of the neck. Then the true stress strain curve will follow the dotted line AG. So you have to divide it with narrowest area, and then you will get the actual stress strain curve. But okay, Whenever you are asked for a stationary curve, you have to simply uh, draw up to point F, and if true stationary curve, then you have to draw with and draw up to point G value. Last two things, that is percentage reduction in area and percentage elongation. So as you discuss in your 11th and 12th physics, how you are going to find percentage reduction in area or percentage elongation. So percentage reduction in area is the difference between the original cross section area and the cross section area at the neck. That is where the fracture takes place, means fractured area. You may get a narrow cross section area as compared to the original one. This difference is expressed as percentage of the original cross section area. Okay, let capital A is equal to original cross section area, that is before you are applying the load, and small a is the cross section area at the neck, that is after the breaking of the specimen. In between the testing, you are not going to measure the neck, means you are measuring the neck diameter or neck cross section area after completing the what you say after completing the specimen, the testing, sorry, after completing the testing. Okay, then reduction area is equal to capital A minus small a, and the percentage reduction area is equal to capital A minus small a upon capital A with capital A. Why divided with capital A? Means you are going to compare it with original area, multiply by 100. Now last, that is percentage elongation. Similar with what is percentage reduction area, you are going to find out percentage elongation. So it is the percentage increase in standard gauge length, that is original length. Original length minus length of specimen after fracture, or final length. Means after breaking, or what you say, when crack initiated, if you are uh, stop the testing, so the length of the specimen after the crack initiated or after the breaking is the length of, or is the final length, that is capital L. So elongation is capital L minus small l, because final length is increase or more as compared to the original length, but is not in the case of area. Final area is small as compared to initial area. So percentage elongation is equal to capital L minus small l upon small l multiplied by 100, that is percentage elongation. Last things, that is percentage elongation gives a measure of ductility of metal under test. Okay, the amount of local extension depend upon the material and also on the transverse dimension of the test specimen. Since the specimen are to be made from bars, strips, sheet, wires, forging, casting, etc. Therefore, it is not possible to make all specimen of one standard size. Means the specimen you are making a dog bone. So for all material you are not going to make not getting the dog bone structure. Since the dimension of the specimen influence the result, therefore some standard means of comparison of result are necessary. That's why we are taking the dog bone as a standard specimen size. So the length of the dog bone, that is in between the two broad area, and the diameter of the neck, the length of the neck, the diameter of the neck, this it have some common point or common ratio, that is L upon T ratio. If you are going to make dog bone, you have to make, or you have make sure that L upon T ratio for the specimen, for the dog bone specimen will be same. If your specimen is small or if your specimen is large, whatever it is, the L upon T ratio must be same for both the material. According to ISO and also according to the materialistic engineering, the L upon D ratio will be fixed for all. You may use cylindrical specimen or you may use the rectangular specimen, but in the case of rectangular, the length upon width ratio is important, L upon W ratio, and in case of cylindrical, L upon D ratio is important. Okay, I think you may able to understand the stress strain curve. In the next video, I will discuss the factor of safety and one more important thing, that is why I am marking the yield stress and the ultimate stress as the design criteria for brittle material and for ductile material. Next lecture will be very important for a design point of view, and we will see some small topic, that is factor of safety. It is a small topic but a very important topic for your engineering concern. We will discuss it later on. As always, If you have any query regarding this topic, please write in the comment section. I will try to solve your problem in the comment, but if not, I will definitely make a video for solving your problem. So I hope you will not going to mistake on a stationary curve in future. Okay, that's all for now. Thank you for watching.